Hi, my name is Kevin White, and I'm giving a brief presentation on conformity and the silent majority. So just a brief overview of what's going to be happening is I'm first going to be talking about what is conformity and the different types of it. And then I will be going over a history of what the silent majority is uh, and how it works and how it convinces us to conform before I go and look at what the silent majority looks like today. So first of all, what is conformity? Uh, from a social psychology perspective, the definition of conformity is the tendency to change our perceptions, opinions, or behaviors in ways that are consistent with group norms. So in a more general sense, it is the idea of when we go and interact with other groups of people, how we change what we consider to be our normal behaviors in order to try and fit in with the group and minimize embarrassing situations or simply causing waves in the group. There are two main ways that people conform, either with public conformity or private conformity. Public conformity is just a superficial change in our behavior in order to better fit in with the people surrounding us. This doesn't necessarily have to be a large thing, and more often than not is done almost as a form of appeasement. So an example of this would be if you walked up to a group of classmates who were all talking about their favorite band and they all love this band. Under normal circumstances, you just think that the band is okay, but in order to better fit in with this group, you decide to say that, oh yeah, this band is super awesome. I listen to their music all the time. And that's it. That's all you need to do in order to publicly conform and fit in better with that group. Private conformity, on the other hand, is making a real change to your beliefs and behaviors in order to accept the attitude and positions of others. So in that same scenario, you would simply be publicly conforming if you said that and then went home and continued on with your day as if nothing has happened. However, if you decided to go home and then listen to that band, listen to all of their albums, their songs, watch a documentary on the band, things like that, and really come to accept that band as your favorite band or what have you, then you would be privately conforming to that pressure. Now, how does this relate to the silent majority? So the silent majority was a phrase that has been used several times throughout history, especially in America, but it became a defined idea alongside Nixon's re-election in the late 1960s. He gave a speech regarding the Vietnam War and how the silent majority of Americans supported continuing the war. So the silent majority that he refers to are individuals who don't feel that their views are being accurately represented or heard over the voices of dissenting opinions. So it's the idea that a vocal minority is speaking up and covering up the views and ideas of the silent majority. There are other terms that have been used to describe the similar ideas, such as the Forgotten America, the Silent Center of America, things of that nature. Several other terms were used, but referred to the same population of people. And this worked. The silent majority showed up for Nixon's reelection and helped him win. And the reason why this works is because the silent majority creates a new in-group for people to recognize with. By the very definition, if you break down what is called the silent majority, it consists of two parts, silent and majority. So already by hearing this term, we think that it is a majority of people and therefore a large group, which generates a large normative influence. Normative influence is any pressures that we feel to fit in with the group in order to avoid embarrassing ourselves or causing issues in the group. And the larger a group is, the more normative influence it has. And so people perceive the silent majority to be large. The other reason that the silent majority works so well is because it is silent. And therefore, the false consensus effect makes us think that the silent majority consists of people that we agree with. So what is the false consensus effect? The false consensus effect is the idea that people believe that others share the same ideas and opinions that they have. So by creating the silent majority, we assume it is large. And because it is silent, we assume as people that everyone else in that group has the same opinions as us, even if that's not necessarily the case. The other big thing that appeals to the silent majority is that because it is so broad and vague, even if people only have small discrepancies with a vocal minority's plan, they're able to more easily fit in with the silent majority, whether that's because they believe that the policy changes being promoted by minorities are unneeded, or if they are perhaps too extreme. People are more likely to side with the silent majority because they assume it agrees with them. Now, shifting perspectives a little bit, let's look at who actually consists of the silent majority and why it is inherently kind of a flawed principle. So in the 1960s, when Nixon was using this method, he was primarily trying to appeal to blue-collar suburban Americans who were working all the time and either had too little time, energy, or motivation to be actively spreading their political ideas and beliefs. And so Nixon wanted to encapsulate that entire group of voters into one big group of people that agreed with him. And so therefore the silent majority came in and worked very well back in the day. In a modern sense, however, the same group of people could be considered in the silent majority, but now there is also a large group of people who choose not to share their beliefs in public forums out of fear of retaliation or simply because they value their privacy in this increasingly globalized world and would rather live a smaller life to themselves. And even if these people don't agree with the general views of the silent majority, they are still a part of it simply because they are not expressing that viewpoint. And from a public perspective, can be seen as part of the silent majority. And so we've clearly seen that the silent majority has worked in the past in 1960s America, but what about today? So it worked in the past before with America, and it also seems to be working well nowadays. Our current president uses similar verbiage in order to evoke the idea of a silent majority that backs his leadership, even if there are other factors that might suggest otherwise. And that seems to be working. It came out in the 2016 election, and we have to wait and see how it goes in the 2020 election. However, in other places around the world, such as Hong Kong, we see that the opposite is true. The Chinese government, in regards to the government of Hong Kong, said that while people were protesting, that there was a silent majority of people who in fact supported the Communist Party ruling over China. However, when the polls opened up and people came out to vote, there was a massive landslide in favor of the pro-democracy parties, which proved that the silent majority was in fact not with the pro-communist establishment in China, but rather with the pro-democracy. So normally we see the silent majority siding with the status quo of things. However, in Hong Kong, we saw that the silent majority, in fact, sided with change, which is one of the few times something like this has been seen before. It's unclear at this point in time if that is exclusively a cultural thing or if that is perhaps just because of the events surrounding it as a whole. Another thing that exists in the same vein as the silent majority is the idea of the internet 1% rule, which is the idea that on any given website, 1% of content that you see, or excuse me, the content that you see on any given website is being produced by 1% of users on that website, while 99% of the users of the website are simply viewing it and moving on or lurking. There's also an extension of the 1% rule, which is the 190, or the, excuse me, the 1-9-90% ratio, which is that 1% of the users produce content, 9% actively comment and discuss on content, while 90% simply observe, view, and consume that content. So this reflects the idea of the silent majority and the factor that a small portion of the group is actively participating in any given conversation, while vast majority of it are simply silently watching and lurking and seeing what happens from it. That concludes my presentation on conformity and the silent majority. Thank you for watching.